Welcome Ramley, welcome to a new video, and after 2 preseason games after my last video, plus a little trip to Sequoia National Parks and Three Rivers, I am back with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the Rams official roster, the 53-man team roster. I'm making it today on Monday, September 1st, September 2nd. And we're going to be talking first. We're going to start off with the Rams offense. So then I'm going to get into the practice squad and some of the cuts to me that didn't really make that much sense. But we have a lot of depth for the Rams. We have a lot of quality depth, especially some of these undrafted free agents that came into the team. But first, let's start with the official team. The Rams offense officially is right now Jared Goff, quarterback. Quarterback 2 is Blake Bortles. Running back Todd Gurley. Second running back is Malcolm Brown. Third is Darrell Henderson. Wide receiver Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, Josh Reynolds. Possibly the 4 best wide receiver group. Maybe 3 best wide receiver group if you want to turn that in, count that as something. And then Mike Thomas, someone that I didn't even... Why is Mike Thomas on the team when you had Kadarius Hodge? But I guess the Rams like Mike Thomas for whatever reason, even though he never actually catches any balls during the season, and he's not a really good pass catcher like Kadarius Hodge is, but Kadarius ended up taking off, but we'll get to that later. And Simba Webster did have a really good preseason, and then JoJo Natson had a pretty decent preseason as well. Then Tyler Higbee is tight end number 1, Gerald Everett tight end number 2, and Johnny Munt tight end number 3. So that's the Rams official so far right now starting offense. Now we're going to go to offensive line group. Andrew Whitworth, left tackle. David Edwards, left tackle number 2. Joseph Noteboom, left guard. And then Jamil Demby, left guard number 2. Brian Allen, starting center. Then it's Aaron Neary, center number 2, and then Austin Blythe is right guard. Then right tackle is Rob Havenstein and Bobby Evans. So that's a really decent offensive line, quality depth. Some of these players did fairly well in the preseason. Someone that you want to see more out of, Bobby Evans. His pass blocking ability is a struggle, but when he's out there blocking for run plays, that dude is a beast. He can move guys around. He's a people pushing person. So he moves people around really, really well. But when he's in the pass protection, that's a liability. But I already made that video for you guys in the past. But preseason, he was pretty good, and they did fairly well this preseason compared to other preseasons with backup offensive linemen. So that's our starting O-line, and then our starting defensive end Michael Brockers, defensive end number 2 Morgan Fox. Nose tackle, starting nose tackle is going to be Sebastian Joseph Day. Nose tackle number 2, who I think should be the starting nose tackle, is Greg Gaines. Defensive tackle, Aaron Donald, superstar. Then it's Tanzel Smart, defensive tackle number 2. Then the will linebacker is going to be Dante Fowler. Will number 2 is going to be Samson Ebukam, and number 3 is going to be Ugbo Okoronkwo. So Ugbo, to me, was one of the best players in the preseason for the Rams. Was just a monster, creating chaos inside the pocket for the quarterback, and he did a really good job this season. This preseason, just getting in the face of the quarterback. I think he forced like 2 fumbles, got 2 sacks, had a bunch of tackles for loss, and it was just creating pressure all around. So to me, the best player in the preseason goes to Ugbo Okoronkwo, someone that missed the first game, I do believe, but then came back strong in the last game of the preseason. So that's something about the Rams, is they have really good edge rushing roster and quality backups to maybe come in. So if Ugbo Okoronkwo is your worst edge rusher right now, then you're doing good things. So that's a good thing for Ugbo. And then outside linebacker is going to be Clay Matthews, then Justin Lawler, and Natrez Patrick. Natrez had a really good preseason. Was just a new name that came up. He's kind of like the how do you describe him? He's kind of like last year's JoJo Natson, who just came in and then took over the spot for Tavon Austin and wows us. But now Natrez Patrick comes in, and then he's an outside linebacker, quality, physical guy, good at stopping the run, really good nose to see if it's a play action fake. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I think in the preseason they tried to fake them out with the play action pass, but he ended up getting the quarterback with a sack, and a mobile quarterback at that. It's hard to sack a mobile quarterback, but Natrez Patrick has the speed, and he was very physical, and I liked his game, and I was very glad when they decided to keep him. Inside linebackers, Corey Littleton and Bryce Hager. Then it's Trayvon Howard and then Troy Reeder. So those are your inside linebackers. So we're going to probably start the season with Corey Littleton and Bryce Hager. Corey Littleton, you already know, he's a playmaker, but he's more of a pass coverage type of linebacker. And then Bryce Hager is more of a run stopping. He's got pretty good awareness, but he's not the fastest guy. That's his liability, his speed. Where Corey Littleton is fast, but his liability is stopping the run. So that's where you kind of have to balance that out. But Trayvon Howard, he's got some time to learn, but he's physical enough, he's fast enough to get in there and cause problems. So now cornerbacks, Marcus Peters, Nikel Roby-Coleman, and then it's Darius Williams, and then the other side is going to be Aqib Talib, Troy Hill, and David Long Jr. David Long was pretty good. They were trying him out in the outside cornerback position and then in the slot position, so he was doing decent, but at times he was, productive, and he was, defending passes. He was swatting him down. He almost had an interception, but then at other times he was getting beat in the slot by, slot receivers, and he would get smoked. So maybe that's why they put him at right cornerback number 3. But he was doing a fairly decent job. Now safeties, Eric Weddle, Marquis Christian, and Nick Scott, and then John Johnson and Taylor Rapp to finish it up with the strong safeties. So that is your official Rams offense and defense. Now we're going to get into the practice squad. So the quarterback that kind of wowed everybody was John Wolford. That dude was throwing dimes down the field consistently in preseason, and no wonder the Rams kept him. So if we can keep this guy from getting taken by other teams and maybe developing him into a really good number 2, probably even better. This guy was shining bright in the preseason with inferior protection, moving inside the pocket, looking at the wide receivers, throwing dimes to them in the end zone. And to me, offensively, he was the MVP of the preseason. Defensively, Ogbonnia Okoronkwo was the MVP of the preseason for all the preseason players. Then it's John Kelly, who at first looked like he got cut, but then he ended up making the practice squad. It mainly is because John Kelly is decent, but he hasn't had his time, shine really bright. He had his ability last season when Todd Gurley was getting injured, but he wasn't producing. So this preseason he came in, but he wasn't doing that well either. So that's why they ended up putting him in the practice squad. And then it's Kendall Blanton, who had a pretty good preseason, Chandler Brewer, then Jeremiah Cologne, Dante Dion, Jake Gervais, and then Dakota Allen to me was a really good linebacker who came in and in the 7th round, and we didn't expect much from him, but in the preseason he was really good in pass plays. Stopping the run was something that it's not his forte, but he can do it. And then he did a really good job of getting into a certain gap and then stopping the play behind the line of scrimmage. So Dakota Allen to me should have been in the regular team, maybe linebacker number 4, but he's still in the practice squad. He still made the team, and if someone were to get hurt, he would be promoted to the official team. So that was a pretty good chance for him to show his talents. And then Landis Durham and Marquise Copeland. So that is your official practice squad. And there were a lot of players that got the boot. Some of them were like Justin Davis, a running back from USC, Austin Prohl, Ricky Prohl's son. Vitas, I can't even say his name, but I can tell it's Polish. It's Vitas Herkiewicz. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But that dude was a pretty big offensive lineman, very power-based, and he did a good job of protecting people inside the pocket. Boogie Roberts. Yeah, so there was a lot of players that didn't make the team that was kind of upsetting, but a guy like Kadero Hodge, who's been with the Rams for the last 2 seasons, and he actually did a really good job when he came in for Brandon Cooks, and then also when Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp got hurt in the Seattle game. He came in and did a fairly decent job. In the preseason, he's always catching balls down the field. So to me, that was the most upsetting part, where Kadero Hodge didn't make the team and a guy like Mike Thomas did. Because Mike Thomas, to me, is trash. That guy can't catch unless it's a little pass, like 5-yard pass. But when he's supposed to be a deep threat, but when you throw him a ball down the field, he never catches it. He always fumbles the ball, or he just drops the ball. He's got butterfingers down the field. So Kadero Hodge to me was a way better wide receiver, but unfortunately he's going, I think, to the Browns now. So he'll have his time to compete over there. And also John Franklin Myers isn't on the team anymore. He also ended up leaving. I think he's going to the Jets. So some of the players that were with the Rams this past year are going to no longer be with the Rams this season. And it sucks because some of these guys are actually pretty decent players. So we're not that happy about that. So just let me know which players to you were actually pretty decent that ended up leaving the team. And I just saw right now, Kevin Peterson, who I think had 2 interceptions, went to the Cardinals. Wide receiver Kadero Hodge to the Browns. Quarterback Brandon Allen goes to the Broncos. Defensive lineman John Franklin Myers goes to the Jets. And then Steven Parker goes to the Dolphins. So that just shows that the Rams have a lot of depth. But at the same time, even though they have depth, it still sucks that some of these players were actually pretty decent and they ended up going to another team. So hopefully the decisions the Rams made really helps this Rams team get a little bit stronger. But that's basically it, you guys. There's still a lot of players out there in free agency right now that we might actually end up going to get, and some of these players have left other teams surprisingly, kind of like our guys end up leaving surprisingly. So don't think everything's official, but for now, that's our team. Until next time, you guys, go Rams.